You're listening to the Outstanding Life Podcast with your host, Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. As a motivational speaker, Johnny D impacts audiences around the world with his message of living the outstanding life. He's a best-selling author, MC, and two-time Grammy-considered artist. This podcast is a place where Johnny D can introduce you to his outstanding friends and share funny, interesting, and heart-provoking stories. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Here comes your host, Johnny D.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnny D. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Outstanding Life Podcast. Before we get things kicked off today, I want to say a big hello to all my friends tuning in on Dirt Road Radio, KYDT 103.1 FM and KBFS 1450 AM. Today we're talking about something that's more than just metal and rubber. We're talking about cars and how they bring people together. From road trips to garage chats, cars have a way of creating memories and building connections that last a lifetime. And joining me today is a guy who knows that firsthand. My good friend Danny is here to share his love for cars and the stories that prove it's not just about the ride, it's about the people along the way. So please welcome to the Outstanding Life Podcast, Danny Donuts.
I'm doing good, Johnny. And this is so great, too, because I actually grew up on a dirt road, which influenced a lot of my car stories.
Oh, man. So did you grow up in Michigan?
No, I'm actually from Ottawa, Illinois.
Oh, okay. So, Danny, I just introduced you as my good friend, Danny Donuts. That's what I know you as. I've never asked you this. All the years that I've known you, is your real last name Donuts?
Oh, I wish you would have asked that different. See, I try to set it up where people say, is that Danny Donuts? Is that your real name? And then I say, no, my real name's Daniel. See, but my real last name is Radonis, but I pronounced it Radonis growing up. It's really complicated spelling, Raudonis. We were Radonis, but people don't know how to spell it. They don't know how to pronounce it. So when I became a comedian, a performer, I needed to have something memorable and stuff. So I used Danny Donuts as my stage name, and it stuck. It was the most brilliant thing I've done as a performer.
So everybody knows you. I mean, including myself, I just know you as Danny Donuts. So that's pretty cool. It obviously is working, just like with me being the Motivational Cowboy.
Yep.
Nobody even knows my last name anymore.
And people can't pronounce it. But see, that's what's
that's
great
true.
Is that you still use it, though. I mean, it's like you put your name out there. I see it out there, and it's like, yeah, you can't pronounce it, you can't remember it, you can't spell it, but everybody knows the Motivational Cowboy. So,
right,
Johnny,
exactly.
It's great to be in the presence of sheer brilliance.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that are listening right now and you're like, what are you talking about? My last name is Dmytryszyn, and that's why they call me Johnny D. Just like Danny said, nobody can really say it, spell it, or anything else, but it's spelled like this: Dmytryszyn, Dmytryszyn, just like electrician. And every third letter is a Y with 10 letters. I mean, to me, it's pretty easy. So enough about me, Danny. I the show is about cars and, about the connection with cars. And you're somebody that our paths crossed because of cars. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to come on the show today. I'm just going to ask you this. What kind of car did you have growing up? Or I should say, what kind of car did your family have growing up?
Well, my dad had a pickup truck most of the time, although there was that in the late 70s when everybody had vans with the shag carpeting and stuff. We did that. And we did, the big dream was my dad was going to drive us down to Disney World or Disneyland, whatever's in Florida, and we were going to camp along the way. And to do that, we needed to have a van, and we needed to put shag carpeting on the floor, on the walls, and on the ceiling, and put a little bed back there and stuff. And we did. We never made it to Disney my whole life. I actually was there once at a conference, but never to go to Disney. But we did end up buying a farmhouse out in the country, and that sucked up all my parents' money. But my dad noticed that nobody waved to him, because even though he wasn't like a hippie dude, he was driving a hippie vehicle, and the farmers would not wave to him in that Chevy van. But as soon as he got a pickup truck, everybody waved. So he felt like nothing. So for the most part, my dad had a truck, and then my mom drove an old Dodge Dart, but not a cool one, a real boxy, ugly one. But those are the two cars that I remember most. And my mom usually ended up having like a big old car, and my dad usually had a pickup truck, and that's what I grew up driving in high school and stuff.
Danny, it just reminded me of the Griswolds. That's what I just pictured right now. You and your family in that van trying to make it to Florida.
It was great. We did a trip out to the East Coast to see my aunt in New Hampshire and stuff. And I remember thinking it was so cool. I mean, back in the day, I don't know if you did this, but hey, can I go out and play in the car? And you go and you sit in the car and you pretend like you're driving it and all of that. I did that a couple times, when I was too young to know, I put it into gear and I rolled away and all of that. So,
Danny, I was just thinking of that same thing, and you just said it. The first thing I was listening to you say that, and the first thing that came to my mind was, I'll never forget this. I was with my dad. We went to my Uncle Philip's. We were in the driveway, and I was pretending I was a race car driver, right? And I put it in neutral, and the thing rolled back into the street. And thank God there wasn't a car there. But, my dad and my uncle were having a beer, and, I was just playing around in the car. Yeah. And I put that thing in neutral, and it rolled right down the driveway. And my dad was not that like athlete kind of guy. You know what I mean? So I just envisioned that face of his back then, just now. So thanks, Danny, for that. But yeah, well, I think we've all did that. You know what I mean? Put the car in neutral and it start rolling away, and our parents are like, "What the heck's going on here?"
And it's a safety, back when you in the 70s, you could do that stuff. Nowadays, you can't get the car into neutral because of us.
You're right. Exactly. Hey, Danny, who taught you how to drive? Did you get taught to drive in your mom's car or your dad's van or your dad's pickup? Like, do you remember the car and who it was?
Get this. My dad was the high school driver's ed teacher.
Shut the front door.
Yes. And he would bring home in the summer, like he did it year round, but he did summer school too, where you could have summer driving. And during the summer, while he was working, he got to bring home the brand new driver's ed car that the dealership loaned the school. And it had the big thing on the roof that said student driver, and it had the chicken brake. And he so my mom hated driving with my dad, especially, when the new session just started, the summer session, because he would be like, even if the brake wasn't there, my dad was constantly slamming the floorboard of the passenger side if he wasn't driving. But no, my dad was my actual high school driver's ed teacher. But basically, I mean, we went out in both the car and the truck, but I drove the truck more. But I think I took my driver's test in my mom's car, maybe. I don't even remember. It seemed like we were in a loaner car of some sort. I don't think it was the school's, but we were in, I think, a loaner car when I actually took my driver's test at age 16.
Did you pass?
Don't do that yeah, I was real nervous though, because they said, when you pull in and park, if you are on the line, if your tire's on the line, they won't pass you. And mine was on the line a little bit, and they passed me. So,
was your dad's truck, was it a stick or was it automatic?
No, there was one point where I think he had a 3-speed on the true. I was a real little kid, and I'm not even sure what it was, but I remember the gas pedal was shaped like a shoe. It wasn't like the cool barefoot gas pedal, but it was shaped like a shoe, and I always loved that. But that one, I was just really, really small. So no, the one that we had forever is a F-100, a Ford F-100. I don't even know the history of this, because you always see F-150s, but we had the Ford F-100. It was like a late 70s model, and my dad didn't make it look cool. My dad wasn't a car guy at all, but he was very practical, and he had like a topper on the back side of it, and it was pretty dorky looking.
Do you remember your first car that you either was, gifted to you or that you bought, and what was it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So rewind a little. I said I grew up in the country on a dirt road and stuff. And this is back in the 70s and early 80s. And when the Honda ATV three-wheeler came out.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody, this is before quads. Like,
yeah.
I mean, everybody had the three-wheelers, and I wanted one so bad. One of my friends had one. But my parents were, sensible. I mean, they ended up like not making these things anymore because of so many injuries and deaths, because they were tippy. So my parents, were looking out for me by not letting me have one. But I wanted a Honda three-wheeler so bad and never got it. But when I turned 16, all of a sudden, they did allow me to, okay, you can have one. But at that point, I was like, wait a second, I got my driver's license now. So can I have the best of both worlds? So at that point, I wanted a Jeep. Because if I had a Jeep, and this is back in the CJ era before the Jeep Wrangler came out, which I think was 1996, the Wrangler came out. And this is the late 80s, or mid, I got my license in 86. And that's when I bought my dream vehicle, a 1952 Willys CJ3A Jeep that had already been heavily modified. It had a 1969 Chevy 327 engine in it with a 4-barrel carburetor, double pumper Holly, and headers, and the thing flooded out constantly. I could never keep it running.
Did you ever get in trouble in that thing?
No, there's only been a few times I remember actually driving it. It seems like, and we did go mudding in my, and that was the thing. I grew up, we didn't own a farm. We owned an acre and a half on a farm, and everything else was farmers' fields and stuff like that. But I saw it as opportunity. Like, look at all that land. It's like when the corn and beans weren't growing, I could go off-roading. And my parents are like, no, you don't own, we're not allowed to go on that land. But a couple times we did get to, we went off-roading, me and my buddies, and went mudding in the farmer fields and stuff. But other than that, no, I never did get in trouble in it.
That's pretty cool. You growing up in a small town and stuff, I just have to ask you, do you have any crazy teenager car stories then? I mean, like if you just bought that Willie, I can't even imagine what else you had brought home then to mom and dad to show them.
Well, my friends and I, we were like, Ottawa, Illinois is like 80 miles southwest of Chicago. It's the nearest big city, maybe Joliet's about 45 minutes away or whatever. There's
a drag strip there.
Yes, Route 66.
Yep.
So there's nobody who at the time when I grew up in the 80s and stuff, nobody was playing ice hockey. But my friends and I were like the weirdos in high school. We were like the Chicago Blackhawk fans, and we were like really getting into hockey, and we absolutely loved it. But we didn't have indoor ice anywhere. Joliet was the closest indoor ice, 45 minutes away. They had a canal, the Illinois-Michigan Canal, that they would kind of flood in the winters, and it was like a pond. If it got cold enough to freeze, you could kind of skate out there. But we had big visions of, we're going to start an indoor ice arena in Ottawa, Illinois. We made up shirts that said Ottawa Otters. That was our fake hockey team we came up with. And so we were going to have the Ottawa Sports Complex. The Ottawa Otters were going to play there. And so it was only fitting when I went to college, Triton College in River Grove, Illinois, near Chicago. I ended up working at the Ridgeland Common Ice Arena in Oak Park, Illinois. So here I am, first year out of high school, 18, whenever. I found out that they had this used ice resurfacer. Now, it's a Zamboni, but it's not a Zamboni, because Zamboni's like has to be made by the Frank J. Zamboni company.
Right.
This was made by the tenant, like the floor sweeping company. It was a tenant ice resurfacer, and it showed up at our ice rink one day. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that's been in storage. I said, I want it. They're like, offer my boss $200. He'll hug you and probably give it to you. And sure enough, he got so excited that we offered him $200. I mean, just the engine was probably worth $200. But but it's this engineering marvel. It drove like a tank. The two wheels on one side turned while the other two didn't. You could spin donuts. It was the coolest thing. Little 4-cylinder industrial engine, and we offered Oak Park $200, and then we found a guy with a semi truck who would go pick it up and drive it an hour and a half away to Ottawa, Illinois. And when my parents were gone for the weekend, we figured that's the time we'll drive it from the auto repair shop I was working at as a young apprentice mechanic. We drove it from the auto repair shop 2 miles on back roads to my parents' house, and we parked it in the driveway, and we had a big sign that says, "Welcome home, Mom and Dad." And we saw that, and my dad had this, I watched them out the window as they came home, and my dad just had this goofy grin on his face, and my mom was like, "Where did we go wrong?" You know.
What did you do with this darn thing?
Well, other than joyriding, we ended up, my other friend who I was involved with the ice rink idea, and his dad thought it was super cool, and his dad had a place about a half a mile from our place, so we put it behind his place, and once in a while we would get it started, but that was pretty much it. It was like more of a lawn ornament. It represented dreams, though, Johnny. I know you can relate.
Yes, yes.
But then it turned out it had a happy ending. After I went to Triton College, I transferred to Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant, and they built an outdoor ice rink, and they were all excited about it. And I went up to them and I said, "You guys got an ice resurfacer?" They go, "Nope." I said, "You want one?" And they said, "Yep." So we being the big businessman that I am, I think I sold that to them for $600. So we made money on the deal and got it to a good home. So we were like the stewards of this old forgotten ice resurfacer.
Oh, Danny, I can't even imagine what you have next to tell us. Besides the Zamboni, do you have any other crazy stories about things that you brought home?
Well, yeah. We got into car racing too. And do you know what an enduro is?
Yeah. Isn't that the small cars that you have to like take things off it? And like they have certain things, but you can get into racing those kind of cheap.
Yes. So basically, but you say small cars, that's how they are now because that's what's available. But back in 1986, when I first saw my first enduro, they were lead sleds. These things were big. Or a lot of people had the full-size Chevy Monte Carlos and Ford Thunderbirds and stuff. I mean, it was big iron sleds. And these were basically demolition derby cars that would go on the oval track. And in the heyday, they would put 100 cars on a quarter mile, third of a mile asphalt, and they put 100 cars out there, and they don't throw the yellow flag. So when somebody spins, everybody just keeps going. It's mass chaos. It's hilarious, and you could get in for super cheap. And like I said, I worked at a shop, and he had some used cars, and he was into racing and stuff. So I think he either loaned it to us or we borrowed it.
Wait a second. How do you borrow a race car? And excuse me, I'm just going to go ahead and tear this apart. I mean, how'd that go?
It was already a junk car. He basically had like a little junkyard in the back. So it was already a junk car, and he was going to get the junk car back after we were done playing with it. So he was still going to get his price for scrap. And in the meantime, we had so much fun with it. You know, to go racing, you need trucks and trailers and all that. We didn't have that. So we just drove these cars illegally, no license, no insurance, no anything. And we would drive them. And it was one thing to drive it 2 miles on the back country roads from the auto shop to my parents' house. But another thing, when I started going to school in Chicago, I would find these cars there. We were driving this one car home on the expressway, and this is back before the Easy Pass, where you actually had to put coins in a basket. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And so this car that I got in Chicago that we were driving home illegally, no license, no registration, no lights, probably no insurance, anything. The driver's door was jammed. The driver's window wouldn't go down. The only way to go pay the toll was to get out the passenger side, run around the car, and pay the lady. They had manual lanes where they had somebody working there, and you could give them $1 and they'd give you the 60 cents back. And she just says, be careful out there. And I'd have my friend following me in the car. We never got pulled over or anything. So we actually once had to drive the painted up car to the racetrack because we couldn't find a trailer. So yeah, they're just the stuff we got away with and stuff. But those are the good old days, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you work on your cars as well? Like, were you a good mechanic, or did you have somebody else like work on that and you only drove it?
Neither. So I thought of myself as a mechanic, and there was like one car that my friend had, and he donated to us, and he's like, it's junk. If you can get it running, we'll race it in the enduro. Well, I had it running in a half hour. It had points. The points and condenser went under a distributor. A distributor was a thing before they, the old school, right? So like, I didn't really grow up in the points and condenser era, but they were kind of phasing that out. And I did get lucky, and I learned how to adjust the points, and we replaced the points in this 1973 Ford Gran Torino. Like when you hear these, like, oh my God, you put that in a demolition derby enduro race? It's like, yes, we did. Because now somebody would love to get their hands on that. So I thought of myself as a mechanic, but I really didn't have any experience. I didn't grow up in a car family or anything. So we spent all of our time painting the car with house paint, and making it look cool, because instead of qualifying for a pole position, they would give pole position to the best looking car as voted on by the fans. So we spent all of our time painting it up. We had a Spider-Man car. We even put a web as a window net in there. And it was, we spent all our time doing that. And my dad would go like, you should spend more time getting the car ready. Like, at least change the spark plugs.
So let me ask you then, what is the craziest paint job you guys ever did?
The Spider-Man one was pretty cool. We also we did a surf theme one year, and we put a giant pink panther that you would win at a county fair. We had this giant, like 3-foot high pink panther that we put a blonde wig on a little boogie board, and we mounted him so he's surfing on top of the car. They made us take that down after the beauty contest, but the Spider-Man one, that got us into the pole position. And then I think we also got the pole position with Speed Racer. We did a Mach 5, and that one was super fun too.
Danny, with you having all these like basically junk cars, and you brought them back to life for a little while, and then they went back to the junkyard, what's the craziest or weirdest thing you've ever found under a seat or the seats? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, besides, money, I mean, there's, had to find some like crazy stuff.
Wow. Yes, great question. And I ended up working at junkyards. I loved junkyards. And
now, remember that this is a family show, so remember that.
This was one of my actual jobs while I was in college, was working at a junkyard, and we would part out, because the guy had a junkyard, but he really didn't have a whole lot of room for a big field full of cars and trucks and stuff. So we would like completely part them out. And we took apart so many things. I think my best find was a Bonnie Raitt cassette tape that I found. And I think I still have it today and still use it. But yeah, we used to spend all of our time doing crazy stuff. But we would do wacky stuff, like we'd learn, hey, if you take the horn wires off, and instead we had to take the headlights out, we would plug the headlight wires into the horn, and we'd think that was the coolest thing. We turn on the lights, which you'd pull the light switch out. That's how they were back then, and the horn would go off. And we thought that was the coolest thing. And we would do stuff like that.
Well, I'm gonna take you back for a little bit, Danny. Growing up, I know that I had a poster on my wall of the General Lee. That was like the cool car, growing up and stuff like that. Was there ever a dream car poster hanging on your wall as a kid?
I don't think I did. I love the Dukes of Hazzard, though. I watched them religiously every Friday night. So I loved them. I really wasn't into street cars. I became a NASCAR fan when I was like in high school or 8th grade, 1984, like that. I started to become a NASCAR fan. So I liked race cars, but I never really thought too much about having a super cool Corvette or sports car or anything that. So.
Again, right. I'm going back to your high school days, your college days. And I know what it was like for me to, grab my buddies and go for a ride, and we'd all, ride around this certain park and stuff like that. There was always a song that had to be playing, and it had to be loud, and the windows had to be down. It didn't matter growing up in Michigan here. If it was freezing outside, we'd have the heat on, the radio would be going. Was there ever like a favorite song that you enjoyed driving your vehicle to?
I don't think we ever had a tape deck, a 8-track, cassette thing until I was much older. It was whatever was on the radio, and you would change the radio station, which was a dial that you would go, and the little red line would go back and forth. That's what I grew up with. But when I was a little, I think I'm a late bloomer. I had my crazy high school cruising days and stuff more when I was in my working years after I graduated college and stuff. And the best was I took my enduro painting techniques, and I'm like, look, we're driving these cheap $800 cars as our daily drivers anyway, and they're rusty and stuff. Why don't we at least make it look good? So I got a Chevy Monte Carlo, and I painted it bright orange. Now, I didn't choose that color because I wanted a bright orange like General Lee car or anything like that. I chose it because the hardware store had mistint paint for like $1. You could buy a gallon of a paint for $1 in the clearance table, and it was this bright orange, and I'm like, okay, I'll buy that. So with interior latex paint, whatever, I would paint this car, and I decided I'm going to make it the Flintstone Mobile. But I was going to even go a step further because the Grateful Dead, I really wasn't a Deadhead, but I kind of appreciated the whole hippie culture of following this band around and all of that. So I did this mashup of Fred Flintstone and the Flintstones with the Grateful Dead. And I made this orange car, and I started writing all over it. And it was from the town of Dead Rock instead of Bedrock, and I made like some Grateful Dead references, and put painted this thing up, but it had the black spots like Fred Flintstone's loincloth thing that he always wears. But I also made Dino. I had a roof rack that I put on there, and I made a 2-dimensional Dino sticking out of it looked like he was sticking out of the roof, and I had guide wires holding them down, and so I was driving this thing around, and by then I did have a cassette player, so I could play the Flintstone theme song while I was driving the Flintstone Mobile around, and that was super cool.
Don't worry, we'll get right back to the Outstanding Life podcast with Johnny D the Motivational Cowboy right after this message. So, you need a dynamic, interesting, audience attention-grabbing speaker for your conference. You need Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Your event attendees will get the life-changing solutions and contagious energy they need to live their best lives. Whoever your audience is, from children at school assemblies to seasoned professionals at corporate gigs, Johnny D delivers. Book Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy today at motivationalcowboy.com.
Danny, you brought up the interest in racing, and you loved NASCAR and stuff like that. Did this interest in racing influence your future?
Well, yeah, I became a auto mechanic for a while, and
so you did that because of your love for racing?
Yeah, at the time and when I started to get excited about it, I was like, wow, I could move down to North Carolina and get into NASCAR and I was more interested in being a mechanic or an engine builder than I was actually being a driver. And so that was kind of my career path that I thought I was going to take, is is go be an engine builder for NASCAR or be a crew chief or something. And then what happened in high school, I started to get interested in like testing and research and development and stuff. I had a job interview at Jack Roush Industries, I think it was called.
Yep.
In the dyno lab. I got real excited about engine dynamometers, and that's what I wanted to do. But my teacher at Central Michigan University had a former student that actually worked for Roush Racing, and he put us in touch. And I got to really see it's not what you know, but who you know. This guy puts in a good word for me. Next thing you know, I get an interview at Roush, and he says, look, just get into the company and we promote from within. So if you want to get into the racing division, just get in there and you'll have that opportunity. I got to see Jack Roush's own personal test cell that he had, and he had his pictures of his kids up there, and I'm like, wow. And they offered me a job right there on the spot. I had to take a test and had an interview, but they were willing to start me. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's choices I've made that I haven't regretted. I would have loved to have seen how my life would have turned out if I had accepted the job, but at the time I was engaged to be married, and we were still in Central Michigan University. So for me to move to Detroit and then expect my fiance to move there after she graduated, and it wasn't the right fit at the right time. And I never really regretted the decision because the burnout would have been huge, and I probably would have hated, engines and racing and stuff. But instead, I ended up becoming a performer, comedian. I launched a kind of a creative job search at the same time I was launching my technical job search. And I got involved in cartooning and comedy and fun things like that. And I end up like using my auto background. I built these crazy things, these contraptions, I had this yellow submarine vehicle that I would drive around music festivals, and it's like Fred Flintstone. I kind of walk and it's on wheels and stuff, and I'm inside this thing. But I used my 12-volt automotive engineering electronics to hook up horns, lights, a sprayer from a windshield washer pump can spray people water, so I've used that technology, but not currently working in the automotive field.
So you have built and rebuilt a Zamboni, multiple race cars, and now a submarine. Does it get any weirder than that? I mean, I've had a lot of people on the show talking about how cool their cars are and stuff, but never a Zamboni, enduro racing, and then now a submarine.
Yeah, and my friend had was in a band, and they were a goofy Beatles band. So the Ruddles was a really cool spoof. It's like a mockumentary on the Beatles. It was put together by the kind of a joint effort between the Monty Python group and the Saturday Night Live's, early 80s Saturday Night Live guys, and they did this brilliant spoof of the Beatles. And so I have these friends that had this band that was a Ruddles tribute band, which was the spoof of the Beatles. And they were called the Yellow Sub Morons instead of the Yellow Submarine. And in just brainstorming, we decided that, hey, it would be a cool thing if I built this Yellow Submarine and kind of could parade around during their shows. And my friend owned a playground manufacturing company, and they basically had a playground junkyard in their backyard. So out of playground equipment, my friend and I built this Yellow Submarine, and I had a shoulder harness where I could kind of walk around with it. But after about a half hour at this Beatles festival, I was about ready to fall over. It was so heavy. So I had to convert it and put it onto wheels. And then I got like a little electric scooter, and I could drive it around. Like the little electric scooter sat inside the Yellow Submarine, and I could turn on the bubble machine and cruise around the festival grounds. That was really fun.
Danny, do you wish with all these vehicles that you've talked about today, do you wish you had any of those back? Like if I could say, hypothetically, Danny, I'm going to give you one vehicle back from your life. Which vehicle would that be?
Wow. Yeah. So my dream vehicles were the Jeeps. I had 2 Jeeps. Those would be cool. But now, am I getting them back in the same condition?
Yes.
Yeah. Out of all of them, I'd have to say the Zamboni, because that is the super unique, and
Danny, are you really this simple of a guy that you would, I just offered to bring any vehicle back from your
ones that I own,
your past to the future or to the present, and you are wanting your Zamboni back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I own a house now and I have land and we live in the country and we have a well. And it's like now I could have that backyard ice rink that I always wanted as a kid.
So I'm just curious, did you ever play hockey? Can you even skate? You bought it. Yeah, I'm just thinking about this now. Did you even skate?
Late bloomer, like I said, we never got to. First time I got to skate on indoor ice, I would think I was a senior in high school, so 18 years old, and I could skate, but not very well. But then my first job in college at Triton College, I worked at that Oak Park Ice Arena, and I got a job as a skate guard, and so I spent a lot of time on the ice at public skating sessions. So I got good, just from the public skate sessions. And then I would do a little pickup hockey. I had never played on an official hockey team, like with uniforms and penalties and referees and all that until about a year and a half ago. And I finally did that. Otherwise, it was just pickup hockey, rinks. You can do the drop-in hockey. We called it rat hockey.
So, a friend wrote to me and they knew that you were going to be on the podcast. You must have told them that you're going to be recording this episode. And so they sent me a message on Facebook and they said to ask you about your cross-country tour bus. Now, again, we just talked about Zambonis. We talked about enduro racing. We talked about your submarine. Please tell us.
Oh, I might want that vehicle back. I completely
this cross-country tour bus.
I completely forgot about the hearse that I bought.
Hang on a second. Did you just say? Hang on. Did you say hearse?
Yeah. And
your hearse was your tour bus.
Yeah. So,
Danny, please tell all the listeners and myself.
I need to educate some people. So, because a lot of times there's this misconception that it's actually called a hearse with a T, but that was a shifter on muscle cars, the hearse shifter. But a hearse, Hearse, is a funeral wagon. The old, scary looking, things that you put the coffin in the back and stuff. So I'm thinking, I really want to be a performer. And I learned quick that the stand-up comedy world is a dark, dreary place. And you have to, sit through hours and hours of bad comedy in bars to play to audiences that are just other comedians who aren't even listening to you. They're just thinking about what they're going to say when they get up there. I just did not enjoy the stand-up comedy world at the time. But I found this guy who was performing in schools. And the light bulb went on and I said, oh my God. So if I get up early and drive to a school and put on an assembly, was what they did, and make it educational, but entertaining, but educational, or have some character building up traits or whatever, I'm like, I can make money as a performer. So I decided that I'm going to become a school assembly performer. And instead of rising to fame in the stand-up comedy world, I'm going to make money going to schools and, not be famous, but, get to inspire kids and perform and still bring laughter and all that. So when you decide to become a school assembly performer and nobody knows who you are, and, I send out mailings back in the mail with stamps and stuff, because I would say this was when websites were first coming out. It's like people didn't know the power of the internet at the time. It's like, no, we wouldn't even know how to find you on the internet. Why don't you send send us promo materials. So I sent out all this promo materials, and then I'm like, okay, if I'm going to sit around and wait for the phone to ring for somebody to hire this unknown school performer, I'm going to get depressed. I'm going to end up going back and getting a job that I hate. But if I go on tour and I basically force myself to go find places to perform at, then I will, I'll be like, I'm living the dream. I'm doing a cross country tour. So I wanted to have a tour bus. Now, unfortunately, when you're Danny Donuts and you want to make a first impression, I had to make a giant donut that I could roll out in the gymnasium floor on. And, I saw this thing. It's a circus thing. It's called a man wheel, but you can't, this is, like I said, it was before the internet was flourishing. And I'm like, where do you find one of these things? And in my country upbringing and stuff, when you don't have what you need and you don't know where to buy it, you make it. So I'm driving through the country and I see these cow pastures and stuff. And in these feedlots, they got this big 8-foot grid circle that they put the big round bales of hay. Oh, by the way, Johnny, did you hear they're getting rid of those big round bales of hay? No. Yeah, they're going back to the old hay bales because they found out that the cows weren't getting a square meal. So the farmers,
Danny Donuts.
The farmers would be able to take basically a forklift and stuff, stick their forks through this big round bale of hay and drop it into this fenced in grid thing. And then the cows don't trample the hay. So that's what it's for. So I would see these things. I'm like, where do you get them? So at like the Tractor Supply Company, I buy this big 8-foot circle and I had it modified. I spent way too much money. I had handles welded onto it and I spent a ton of money to get this thing modified into a thing that I could get in and spin around. And then it takes skill to actually throw your body weight around to get it to do a circle. But I had this ginormous 8-foot wheel that came apart and bolted together in 3 sections. And I needed a big enough vehicle to carry that around. Well, I didn't have one. So I bought like a little enclosed trailer. And then I needed something to pull the trailer with. And it's like trucks and big old vans. It's like, well, they would take up so much gas money and all that. So I wanted something cool looking. I found a hearse. So I traveled cross country in a silver and purple hearse. It wasn't silver and purple when I bought it. It was silver and black, but I painted the vinyl top bright purple.
So you toured the country with a hearse and a trailer.
A purple trailer, and on the back gate, and it was made of wood. It was an enclosed wooden trailer. And on the back gate in bright yellow letters, I wrote, "Everybody in the car, go nuts. You're right behind Danny Donuts."
So, did you actually make it down to your first city?
Oh, I made it all the way to. I made it to both coasts. This thing
really. So that thing stayed together.
Yeah, it was so. Oh my gosh, going through the mountains in November, it was wrong, bad idea. Like I decided I'm going to go see my friend in Vancouver. And I got turned away at the Canadian border in Manitoba, and I had to drive through some of your listener areas in northern North Dakota. I'm driving my hearse through there, yeah. And
I mean, Danny, what did people think when you showed up at a gig and you're driving a hearse? If I booked somebody and they pulled up in that, I would be like, "What the heck did I just hire?"
I had one teacher actually bring her students after the assembly. She brought her students back to the loading area so they could see my cool car.
Okay. All right.
I had my name written on the side. I got like professional lettering stickers done, and
do you have pictures of that? 'Cause I didn't see that on your website.
It was before digital pictures, so but
it would still be cool to have that.
Yeah, I need to get that scanned and stuff. I do have the back of the trailer is I did use that as my first CD cover. I have a music comedy, 2 Christmas music comedy CDs, like Weird Al Yankovic. I take songs and write parodies, and in fact, as I'm on the road not getting gigs, I started like, okay, you don't know where your next meal is coming from, and you have to make this work. So I'm like, okay, schools are getting ready for winter vacation. I left on this tour at the beginning of November when my summer job at Macwood's Dune Rides ended in October, and it took me a month to get everything ready. So I left the first week in November and didn't go south. I should have went south where it was warm. No, I headed to Vancouver and drove through these crazy northern winter storms and stuff. So I ended up like performing at nursing homes because I could pull up and go, hey, I'm an entertainer, and it's like, well, it's almost Christmas. I'll start singing Christmas songs, but I'm a comedian and I'm putting on miles and miles behind the wheel. I started.
Danny, hang on a second. You pulled up at an elderly home.
Don't judge me, Johnny. Don't judge me.
With the trailer like a wooden box.
I wasn't.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got the story straight, Danny.
I was hungry. I didn't know where my next meal was coming from.
Okay.
You do crazy things. Yeah, didn't think this one through. But
did they ever book you?
A couple times.
Oh
I got a couple gigs, and I put this real sappy, songs together. And the elderly are brutally honest. What'd you think of the show? It's like, I hated it. I like traditional Christmas carols, but I'm singing comedy parody versions of Christmas songs. But I get back to Illinois, and then I'm like, hey, I'm going to make a CD. So I have a couple of music CDs out there, and they're both Christmas themed. There's a lot of Beatles stuff on there, and I've gotten national radio airplay. I've been played on the Dr. Demento show. I've been played on major Chicago radio stations. So
nice.
It's, it worked out. I didn't really become a career school performer. I did that for a little while, but
Danny, through all of this, let me ask you this: what has been the biggest lesson that these vehicles have taught you?
Well, Johnny, as a performer, people see you on stage, and you will know this as a public speaker. They get to see our keynote speaker, the speech or whatever that you put together. They don't see all the hard work that you put in, the research and the writes and rewrites and rough drafts, and they don't see all of that. And as a performer, it's always you always got to put in tons of hours of practice, and it was so great to have a place to rehearse. In the perspective, Johnny, I slept in the back of the hearse, and I brought my dog with me too. So my dog and I went cross country in this hearse, and in the perspective, it's like, when you wake up in the morning, I had to put in door handles in the back. For people don't know this, the back doors don't have door handles. They figure they don't need them, But
who's getting out,
right? Except so when I put a door handle in there, and then the perspective when you wake up in the morning and you go, wow, not everybody gets to wake up after spending a night in a hearse. It gives you a different viewpoint of life. Seize the day.
Yeah. That's true with all the driving that I did when I first started my career 25 years ago. I'd be in the car and I would literally, do my talks before I get there, and I still do that. I can't do that so much on an airplane because, I literally have an audience. But Danny, with just a couple minutes left, I need you to tell me about the laughing limo. I mean, I hear that you almost started Uber before Uber was even a thing.
Yeah, I started going to therapeutic humor conferences, AATH.org, the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. And I was a broke, young 20-something kid. It's like I couldn't afford to go to this professional conference that was attended by psychologists and book authors and nurses and all this stuff, people that had real careers. I'm working a tourist job, whatever. So I called the organization up and I said, hey, can I like trade volunteering for a chance to come to the conference? They're like, yeah, we're not doing that this year. And I'm like, okay, well, I live in Chicago and that's where the conference is coming to this year. I said, can I offer to pick people up from the airports and bring them to the conference hotel? And they're like, yeah, knock yourself out, do what you want to do, but we can't promote you doing that. I said, well, can I get email list of people that are coming to the conference? They're like, sure, it's right here. So I wrote an introductory email and I'm to the who's who of everybody coming to this conference. And I'm like, hey, I'm a comedian and I live in Chicago and I'm coming to the conference and I'm starting the laughing limo. So my idea is, and I have worked as a traditional limo driver, and you stand there solemnly and, don't smile and, it just oozes, stuff I don't want to ooze. My idea is people love the interaction. Like you said, the title is it's all about connecting with people through cars. So what if instead of this black limousine, we have this wild, crazy tie-dye painted up limousine, and you hire the laughing limo, and instead of your driver being all professional, he's like a comedian, a performer. He's entertaining you all the way through the traffic jam. I mean, you probably take a lot of professional rides from the airport to your hotels. It's don't you like to interact?
I love this idea, actually. I love it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should develop it, because I never really did it for the general public. But for this conference once a year, I would fly to whatever city we were having the conference in, and I would rent a vehicle. So I have a really nice minivan to rent, and I would organize and picking people up from this conference, and I'd be all dressed up with wacky hats and glasses and clothes and stuff. And they'd come in and we would just crack each other up all the way to the conference. And I became friends with so many people because of that.
Danny Donuts, this will be my last question to you. And that is, if you were a vehicle, what kind of vehicle would you be? And why?
This isn't a psychologist question right there.
I love this because I cannot wait. I've been waiting to ask this question to you. Again, if you were a vehicle, what kind of vehicle would you want to be and why? And I'm sure all the listeners want to know this one, especially listening to your story the last 53 minutes.
Yeah, well, they always say go with your first answer. The Beverly Hillbillies truck.
That, I wasn't expecting that, but that is so you. Mic drop right now. Danny, how can people get a hold of you? Do you have a website? Are you on Facebook? Are you on Twitter? How can people find you?
DannyDonuts.com. That's DANNYDONUTS.com is my website. There's links to other social media things, but I'm mostly Facebook, Facebook.com/DannyDonuts. And that will bring you to the Danny Rodonis or Danny Rodonis page. Or there's my professional Facebook Danny Donuts page, which I don't use nearly enough, but that's Facebook.com/Danny Donuts.
I love it. Danny Donuts, I can't thank you enough for coming on the Outstanding Life podcast, hanging out with us, sharing your unique stories about your unique vehicles that you've had throughout your life. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you this summer, because I'm going to want a tour from you in your by your new place up north. Hey, thanks for listening to the Outstanding Life podcast. I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, telling you, be safe, have fun, and have yourself an outstanding day.
Hey, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Let me ask you, are you planning a conference, convention, meeting, assembly, or any live event that needs a guest speaker? Man, I would love to be a part of it. For more information, visit motivationalcowboy.com. And don't forget to check out my Outstanding Life podcast every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. right here on Dirt Road, KYDT 103.1 FM. I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, telling you, be safe, have fun, and have yourself an outstanding day.
Thanks for listening to the Outstanding Life podcast. Follow Johnny D on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Motivational Cowboy. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, advertise, or would like to make a donation, please visit motivationalcowboy.com. And remember to have an outstanding day.